It's the 7th day in the final month of 2023. We're counting down to the end of the year. It's 10 a.m., so it's time for Business Morning. That's 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations. And you're doing it with me here, Imi John Mekwa. So we'll get right into it now. We'll begin with what's going on in the global grain space. Chicago wheat futures held steady on Thursday after a third large Chinese purchase of U.S. wheat in 3 days pushed prices to a 4-month high. I'll just let you look at the numbers right there, so I'm not in your view. We see there that wheat on the Chicago Board of Trade is down 0.1% at $6.33 for a bushel. Soybeans on the same platform, that's the CBOT, is up 0.2%, and the price this morning is $12.97 for 3/4 of a bushel. And then we see corn on CVI down 0.1%, and the price is $4.03 for 3/4 of a bushel. Now let's see the driving factors for this and the effect of this is having. So for 2023, the Agriculture Ministry expects Russia to bring in its second largest harvest behind the 2022 record of almost 158 million. So unfortunately, while Ukraine is having it down when it comes to their grain sales and exports, Russia is having it good. Plentiful cheap supply from Russia is part of the factors moving those prices that we have seen right there. Well, from there, let's come to Nigeria, and we tell you that Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve fell further. This figure came in yesterday to $32.97 billion as at December the 1st. And that's according to, of course, Nigeria's authority. Meanwhile, latest numbers from the country's central bank. We see right there, external buffers dropped $1.65 billion in 6 months to 32.97 billion. The external buffers, we have seen that the FX reserves closed at 33 billion as at November. Meanwhile, some economic analysts have attributed the country's forex crisis to illiquidity of foreign exchange, which is not a new one, unfortunately, for the country. And not so good news we see coming from the company news. United States multinational consumer goods giant Procter & Gamble says it plans to pull out its manufacturing operations in Nigeria and Argentina as a restructuring mode. We see the Procter & Gamble right there, they're pulling out of Nigeria, and their condition, according to them, is challenging macroeconomic condition. We know that FX is a major part of this. Unfortunately, they target as a challenging macroeconomic condition in the country. Meanwhile, economic analysts said that the company's exit from the market is likely to lead to job losses. I think about 16,000 jobs, 60,000 jobs is what has been placed, on the exit of Procter & Gamble. Is proudly known. I know that you use at least one of the products, a lot of toothpastes, brand, babies products, and even adults, home use, household use. Unfortunately, this is another bad news. The pharmaceutical industry has not, in fact, cannot do without some of the companies that have exited. And now we see this happening also in the country. And then we go to one of the hottest issues still in the economic space of Nigeria, and that is the budget, the appropriation bill proposal, which has been forming conversations, meetings, a town hall meeting the other day, and all of that. Well, also, we have Mr. Ben Akabweze assuring Nigerians that when it comes to revenue, the revenue factor in that proposal, that we're doing good, we are comfortable. Well, he said that on our sister program, Politics Today, last night.
Our revenue performance as of September is already running ahead of the budget, just 8.65 trillion, as against a pro rata budget of 8.28 trillion. So for this year, 2023, we will make the budget projection. But the way to look at it, okay, remember the budget, the revenue projection was for a full year, January to December. And it was on the assumption that by June, the petrol subsidy will be stopped. When you look at the run rate now of the budget performance, in the revenue performance in the last 2 months, in the months of August and September, you will see a run rate of over 1.5 trillion naira. If we sustain this rate, the current run rate of over 1.5 trillion naira, next year's budgeted revenue is 8.3 trillion naira. So at this, the current run rate, if we keep this run rate into 2024, we will make the 18.3 trillion naira. So I don't know, what kind of analysis people are doing, but I expect that there be more rigor in the analysis.
Yeah, that was Mr. Bernard Kabweze with Sheun Okinbaloye Politics Today last night, and we get a bit of assurance there. Hopefully his calculation is right, and if our revenue is okay, that means we would know that what we're funding, at least the deficit we're funding, will be the one that's about 8 trillion naira. Now, there's another disturbing news, which is reports that point of sale, that's POS operators, have returned to buying cash from traders and petrol station attendants as banks suffer from shortage of naira cash. Consequently, some operators have increased their transaction charges by almost 100% or more, from 100 to 200 for 5,000 naira, that is. And some individuals have also noted that banks are struggling to pay customers who want to withdraw their money due, especially those who are asking for large sums of money. These reports have come from Plateau State, as well as some banks in Surulere, Mushin, Kirikiri, Mazamaza, and Ijigu areas of Lagos State. So let's not just wait for this report or dwell on this report. Let's get a first-hand information from the National Vice President of the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria. He's also the Chief Executive Officer of Upswing Consulting and Training Limited. Dr. Obioha Oti joins us virtually from Aja in Lagos. Dr. Oti, thank you so much for your time. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great. So what's the situation in reality when it comes to this issue of banks' cash shortage?
If you recall, the last time I appeared on this station, I mentioned that we may likely have a situation like this if some necessary things are not. The situation is very dire because in most parts of Lagos, and in fact, most parts of the country, we've had reports of a lot of cash shortages, not only in agents' points of sale, but in major financial institutions. So some of the financial institutions that are in urban areas, you may not have the kind of difficulty in accessing cash as much as it's in remote areas. However, there is general cash crunch. And though it has not gotten as bad as it was in February, but if the necessary measures are not put in place quickly, then there will definitely be a lot more problem that we will have in our hands.
I mean, the Supreme Court has ruled that the old Naira can continue to work or be used along with the new Naira notes. And we've even seen numbers from the central bank on an upsurge in, money in circulation. So what can we trace this to? Is it just apprehension by Nigerians?
Nigerians are good in this kind of thing. Like the previous time I was here, I talked about the monetization policy, the monetization policy by the CBN, and I equally said that I believe that very ruling of the Supreme Court should be vacated, and thankfully the CBN has vacated, and the Supreme Court has vacated that ruling. So now Nigerians, in our usual way, most of the time we try to preempt certain things. Like I'm sure a lot of people preempted that ruling will not be vacated. So they try to hoard cash in so many places. Then another thing is that information flows very slowly in Nigeria. There are people that may not be aware that this ruling has been vacated by the Supreme Court. But I know that the CBN has tried as much as possible to disseminate this information. The CBN has written banks and several other financial institutions. And the financial institutions has equally written many of their customers. But because of our low literacy rate in Nigeria, it is difficult to pass information across. So that is why a lot of people may not be appraised with this information. And so we try to behave in a way that causes situations like that to happen.
So do you think that maybe some Nigerians are hoarding cash at home? Is that what's happening?
Well,
hello, Dr. Oti, can you hear me?
Yes, people do that. But there are other issues that we may have to look at. For instance, you know that this time around is the time for a lot of farmers that are selling their produce. So now, most of these farmers that are selling their produce are located in remote areas, and a number of them don't have accounts. So the more they sell, the more cash they hoard. You know, that kind of thing, especially in places like the north. So now, when they are selling and they saving their cash, their money in cash, and that is another form of hoarding cash. And you will expect that some of them will start releasing this cash by the time they want to now start buying seeds for the next planting season. So these are some of the challenges. And you know that usually during the later season, these kind of things usually happen in Nigeria. So the stakeholders that are concerned are supposed to have preempted that this kind of thing will happen and put the necessary measures in place. However, it's not late for the government and all the stakeholders to quickly put head together and get this thing resolved quickly. Because if it is not resolved between now and next week, then definitely we are going to see more serious situation on ground.
So the reports that I saw online says that POS operators, which is your association, members of your association, are now buying cash. Unfortunately, like what we had at this time last year and early this year, they're now having to buy cash.
Before now, if you go to, for instance, a filling station, a petrol station, or a retail store and related businesses like that, they will be very grateful to release their cash to you because you save them the trouble of going to queue in the bank to make deposit before now. But because they know that you are in dire need of the cash, they would rather sell the cash to you instead of voluntarily releasing it to you to go. And if you are not interested in buying it, then they will keep their cash because they know that you will not have any cash to do your business. So that is the reason. And this has given rise to so many other things that...
So is that what is happening now, Dr. Oti? Are you guys buying cash from attendants in the petrol station?
You know, we are abreast with information with many of our members across the country. So most of the places that they usually get cash for free, because if you go to most of the banks now, you will not really get cash. And some of the banks have gone back to putting limits, you know, to how much you can withdraw from the bank. And even these little amounts that you want to withdraw, some of the banks you go to, you will not have the opportunity of withdrawing them. So when you now meet some of these retail outlets that you usually get cash without much conditions just to go and deposit on their behalf, then they will tend to sell it to you. And when that happens, that increases your cost to serve. And these are the challenges that most of the agents are having, not only in the urban areas, but in the remote areas as well.
So what are the banks telling you when you go there to get cash and you say they're not giving you maybe the amounts you want? What excuse do they give for that?
Anyway, we have not really gotten anything from the management of banks. But if you come to, like, some of the information our members give us, if you come to the operators within the bank, that is the front end staff, the tellers and all that, they will tell you that what they are dispensing to you is the much that they have been giving out to pay. You see? So, but we've planned to put certain things in place, right? The management of some of these financial institutions, so that we will likely understand what exactly is the problem on ground. But we know that it is related to the ruling of the Supreme Court and some other factors that are too numerous for us to mention here.
All right, so you did say that if something is not done between now and next week, that you might get to a dire situation. What do you think can be done?
Yes, you see, when your cost to serve increases, definitely you have to add money on top of it to be able to be profitable. Now, who is the person that is suffering it? Is the person that is at the last end of the ecosystem, that is the customer. So some of the operators, POS operators, that usually give out like 5,000, you withdraw it with 100 naira. Some of them have resorted, because they are now buying the cash, they have now increased the cost of withdrawal. Sometimes you need to withdraw 10,000 naira with 200. Now, in some places, it has to be 400. And not only the challenges of cash, there are so many other problems that agents are struggling with now. For instance, there is this disturbing, highly disturbing trend that some of the state governments have started taxing the POS operators heavily. I can mention so many of the states. We have reports from Akwa Ibom State, we have report from Cross River State, we have report from Anambra State, we have report from states in the southwest and some of the states in the north. For instance, that of Anambra, there is this agency that the state government commissioned to be collecting 100 naira every day from agents. And then agents will pay 2,500 naira every month, and they will pay 1,000 naira to register. If you do all this calculation, you will be finding out that one agent in Anambra State will be paying at least 30,000 naira, to the state government in form of taxes. And sometimes the people coming to collect these taxes are not just one agency. Maybe one agency will collect, then another one will come back another. And so POS operators in different states are passing through a lot of challenges. And then this cash challenge now has really made it worse. So something really has to be done, because we are gradually approaching the Christmas season. A lot of people will need cash to run one thing or the other. So it will even get worse, just like
All right, we pray it doesn't get worse, Dr. Birauti. We will follow up on that story you've hinted on, which is taxation.
Yes,
of,
very, very important.
POS operators.
The state governors, particularly, the state governors need to know, because some of these things, I want to believe that some of these taxes are really illegal taxes. Because in the process of trying to negotiate with some of the people that are issuing these demand notices, for instance, the one in Anambra, where I told our chairman, the state chairman there,
all right, Dr.
go and make this decision. You begin to notice that there are some things that are not right. So I want the state governors themselves to really pay attention to this, because if you make life difficult for the average agent, you are directly attacking what they are doing in order to deepen financial inclusion.
All right, Dr. Oti, thank you so much. We really have to stop there, but we promise you that we're going to follow up. I'll reach out to our correspondents in various states to find out, what's going on around there, and we'll probably reach out to you again. But thank you so much, National Vice President, Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. All right. We'll really have to call on the Central Bank of Nigeria to see what's going on around the issue of the threat of cash shortage. I mean, we cannot afford to go through that again. If you cast our minds back to early this year, late last year, it was horrible for a lot of Nigerians, especially the small spenders, those in the rural areas. So we do call on government agencies, the central bank. Please, if this is artificial, do help us fix it. Our job here at Channels Television, as with other media houses, is to bring the issues to your notice. Let's take a break now. When we come back on Business Morning, commodities market and the issues around it will be up next. Welcome back. Well, oil is a major one. We're talking about commodities this morning, but prices reclaimed some ground on Thursday after tumbling to a 6-month low in the previous session. But investors remain concerned about sluggish demand and economic slowdowns in the United States and China. Brent crude futures rose this morning. Last night, I tell you, it was down to, I think, less than 70. Very scary place for a country like Nigeria. But this morning, it rose 38 cents. That's about 0.5% to $74.68 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude also went up 42 cents at about 0.6%. To less than 70, that's $69.80. Nigeria, of course, is more concerned about the Brent. That's where we're connected to. But some of the bearishness was also as a result of higher product fuel inventories, gasoline stocks, which rose by 5.4 million barrels in the week to 223.6 million barrels, according to the EIA, far exceeding expectations for a 1 million barrel build. For the first time in a year, the market structure for Brent contracts switched to trade in contango, with contracts for near-term delivery cheaper than 6 months later. WTI contracts have also switched to trade in contango over 6 months. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman met to discuss further oil price cooperation. That was yesterday. Mr. Putin was in the UAE. Members of the OPEC Plus, which may threaten the market's confidence in the impact of output cuts. Kuwait and Algeria also reaffirmed their support and commitment to the voluntary cuts, which should boost prices for countries like Nigeria, or to the detriment of some countries like Nigeria. But let's talk about these and its implication for the second time this week. Fumi Adibowale, Senior Analyst of Financial Derivatives Company, joins us virtually. Hi, Fumi, good morning. Good to have you again on the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. So, Fumi, this issue of oil prices, when compared to our benchmark price for the appropriation bill of 2024, really gets really scary. Yesterday, we saw that price really go down. I think now it's lower than our benchmark price, and we're seeing more agreements and commitment right there, even though it's for cut, and we hope it will boost price so that at least it will be on the level of the benchmark, which is risky still.
Yes, so prices are actually down, though it increased slightly this morning to about $74.6 per barrel, but it is still 4.1% lower than our benchmark, oil benchmark for 2024. And this is the concern. Though when OPEC Plus agreed to reduce production by 2.2 million barrels per day, it was expected that it was going to have a significant impact on prices. However, we saw that investors and the markets were not really motivated. The concerns for the weak demand concerns still outweighed the potential decline, reduction in supply, and it is really disturbing for Nigeria, considering the fact that about 90% of the projected revenue for 2024 is from oil. So it's a concern. First of all, our production quota has been reduced to 1.58 million, and now our prices are lower, meaning that Nigeria is going to lose about $20 million per day. So it is something that we should worry about, and because it's going to increase the financial body of the government. Currently, the government is in need of revenues, and the president has been looking around to see both the domestic market and foreign market to see where revenues can be generated from. So now that oil revenues are likely to drop further, it's going to increase the financial burden on the government, and which means that we're definitely going to borrow more. And currently, about 98% of our revenue is used to service debts. This is really disturbing at this point in time, because other productive resources or productive projects that should have been invested on will be affected. But the good news is that the landing cost of petrol will decline, and meaning that if at all there is subsidy payments, we are going to see subsidy payments reduce, but the fiscal consolidation objective of the government might not be achieved. So that is really, really disturbing at this point in time.
For me, I like the way you said, if at all there's subsidy payment, because this issue of subsidy payment is obviously not clear enough to a whole lot of us. But I mean, even before we go there, I don't know if you saw the beginning of the program. Yesterday, we had Mr. Kaboize from the Budget Office on our sister program, PoliticsToday, and he assured us that, I mean, at this rate, at the rate that we're going so far, we would do well when it comes to revenue, and there should be no fears. I don't know how you would react to that.
Well, I would say that it's just about what is happening currently. It's about the reality. It's not about whether we'll do well or not. What is the market saying? What are oil prices saying? What is production saying? Because that is what will actually add up to know what revenue is and how it's going to be used to fund the budget. So it's about market reality, except the fact that, well, let's hope that going forward, oil prices will increase further. If that happens, then we should be rest assured that revenue will increase. But at the moment, prices are down, our quota is being reduced, so revenue is a challenge to me as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but we have that meeting, Russia's determination, Mr. Putin committing or cooperating with other oil-producing countries, Algeria also expressing commitment, to stick to the voluntary cut. Do you think that can do us some good?
Well, with the agreement, I expect that oil prices will increase, but weak demand is still a concern. If production is being reduced and demand falls further, because it's not about the forces of demand and supply. So if production reduces and demand increases, then oil prices will increase. But if we expect demand to remain weak and probably reduce further, then it's possible that prices will still, if at all it will increase, it will still be within the range of $70 to $80 per barrel. I don't think it's going to increase to the levels we've seen in the last, I think, 2-3 months, where oil price crossed the $90 per barrel threshold. So it's actually dependent on how weak, how robust demand is likely to be. But currently, demand is still weak, and that is actually that's undermining the impact of the supply cuts that is expected in 2024.
Okay, well, I think we've seen a 0.14% increase in oil production since President Tinubu took over. So we hope we will see more increase, when it comes to production, so that even if the price is not so high, perhaps the volume would help Nigeria to buffer the difference. Or what do you think?
Exactly. Nigeria is more sensitive to oil production and price. And in October, we saw oil price increase marginally. But the challenge is that the last time Nigeria produced up to 1.58 million barrels per day was in June. I think January 2020. So what efforts are in place? Though there have been increased efforts towards curbing oil theft, reducing pipeline vandalism and all. So if efforts are actually increased, and there is also increased investment in the oil sector, it's very likely that Nigeria's oil production will increase. But what the concern is, are we going to produce up to that level, up to 1.58 million barrels per day, or even higher? So if that happens, definitely we'll see oil revenue increase, because the economy is more sensitive to oil production than even price. So if our production should increase, definitely oil revenues will increase.
Okay, let's leave oil for a bit and look at domestic commodities. The festive season is coming. Demand is supposed to increase, even though I think in the last 2 years since COVID, we've seen subdued demand of commodities, even during the festive period. What's price looking like? What's demand looking like for this period?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, during COVID and since COVID, we've seen demand reduce. But there was a pickup, I think, in early 2020 before the reform. Now with the reform, oil prices are up, exchange rate depreciation is also reducing the purchasing power of consumers, and that is actually reducing demand. But since December is festive season, we expect demand to increase. However, it might not get to the pre-COVID levels because consumers are actually struggling out there. I'm sure a bag of rice is over 50,000 naira per bag. So that which is that even higher than your minimum wage. So it's all about affordability. We expect demand to increase during this festive period, but we are unlikely to see that boost in demand that we would have expected before COVID, because an average Nigerian is actually struggling at this point in time.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Any other commodities you look at? Cocoa, corn are in the news at this time. Anything spectacular?
Yeah, thank you. So the price of corn is down to a 3-year low, and Nigeria actually imports corn. Corn is one of the major imports into the Nigerian economy, so we expect that to actually reduce the import bill of cocoa. But we have also seen that domestically, the price of a ton of corn is about 580,000 naira, which is like an increase of 100%. So that is because even if the global price is falling, the exchange rate impact is still being felt. And corn accounts for about 70% of the input used for animal feed. So whatever happens to the price of corn will definitely affect the byproduct. So for Nigeria to actually take advantage of lower prices in the global market, I think the exchange rate issues has to be addressed. So far, Nigeria is still battling with currency pressures. Then the impact of lower prices in the global markets might not be really felt in the Nigerian economy, and that's going to affect corn farmers and other companies that rely on corn as an input for their product. But for cocoa, we are seeing the price of cocoa increase, and that is good for Nigeria because cocoa is the largest non-oil export for Nigeria. So an increase in price means that there will be increase in revenues, which is actually good for the country. It's also good for farmers. So we are seeing corn drop on one hand, but there's also an increase in the price of cocoa, which is good for the economy.
Yeah, I wish we could automatically just increase our production of cocoa, to make up for some of the loopholes that we have. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Fumi Adibowale, Senior Analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. All right, now let's go to another market other than the commodities market, and that's the money market, where you do it directly, you put your money and you get it out. Willie Bong has the details of transactions yesterday. So Will is smiling this morning. I believe the bull did its thing yesterday.
Yes, the bull did its thing. I like the thing, put your money, get your money out. It's more like, yeah, sure thing.
You don't have to plant and wait for it to grow.
No.
And then harvest it and process it and add value.
But it still goes through a process. You still have to wait for a time for it to get the yields to go up. But it's not as the long wait, and the uncertainty is...
That's why they call it portfolio investment.
Yes, portfolio investment. But yesterday we saw the market up 0.78%, massive jump for the NGX. It sustained 2 days. I mean, the gains we saw on Tuesday added 305 billion naira to the market cap, taking it to 39.294 trillion naira market cap. I mean, all share index at 71,000. We're doing good there, and we're seeing bargain hunting in GT Co, which was up about 1.5% yesterday. And so the NGX, we saw that month to date going back to positive territory, currently at 0.6%, and year to date is at 4% now. So we're going to be seeing more of that gains now. So let's look at the volume chart, the activity chart. Yesterday we saw that jump. Yesterday, 59.15% traded yesterday. In terms of percentage, to close at 690.01 million units, valued at 12.1 billion naira. That's an 8.88% jump yesterday. And then we also 9.06% jump in deals to close at 8,412. Now let's just go to the markets and see with Tajuddin Olayenka is the CEO. well, I mean, Tajuddin is not ready yet, but let's look at other sectors. Let's see what the sectors did yesterday. 5.01% up for banking sector. That's to tell us that the banking sector was on fire yesterday because FBN Holdings is on a roll here, jumping higher than we can expect. It's entered the swoots. That's the stock's worth 1 trillion naira. I think the bank tussle is really doing a lot of good for FBN Holdings. Let's look at the consumer goods. Was down yesterday, 0.11%. Industrial was also down. Insurance down. Man said lost over 2% yesterday. Oil and gas unchanged. Wondering what's going on there now. No more rally. We'll wait and see. Now, GTCO was the most traded stock by volume yesterday. If we look at top trades by volume yesterday, GTCO was the most traded stock by volume, and followed by UBA and Fidelity Bank. Now, I don't know, we have Tajuddin back on to talk about what's going on in the market, but we'll just go on there. Let's see the NASD market and see what's going on there. NASD markets closed also positive in yesterday's trading session, 0.15% up, 867.73 points for that. And then we saw the market cap at 1.18 trillion naira. Now let's see what the volume, the activity chart did yesterday. Over 1,377 percentage jump for that. Now 25.14 million units was traded yesterday, valued at 77.15 million naira, and all transacted in 11 deals. Now let's see the fixed income market. Let's see what that performed yesterday. We're still seeing sentiments mixed for that stock. Bullish sentiment still persisting in that market. We're hoping that changes. NTB market. Yesterday was the NTB auction, and we did see that oversubscription for the long end of the paper, and we just hope to see that continue. Investors are getting more money for their investments. And then let's see what I just want to go back to India and just talk about First Bank right now, because First Bank yesterday
news came up yesterday.
Very interesting news. It's joining the league of the swoots, and that, yes, it's quite interesting that the stock's worth 1 trillion naira. And you know, it's for to just wonder that they started the year at about 11 naira, and then now they closed up yesterday about 29 naira 40 kobo. That's a huge jump, and that's a 160% increase year to date in it. You can't beat that. And
yeah, you can't get that in the commodities.
You can't get that in
at that period.
At that period.
Well, I mean, we'd like to say congratulations to FBN Holdings. They're one of the oldest banks, so I guess this is well deserved. But I guess it's not about the number of years; it's about how much transactions, you know, and how much confidence, you know, investors have in them. So about time to hit the $1 trillion, and it's a bigger win for Nigeria and the stock market.
Sure.
We know that since President Tinubu, I mean, there are a lot of negatives. I know the value of naira is one of those, but I mean, it's one of those things when you look at the stock market since he was announced and all of that.
It's been this bullish running.
It's been a very, you know, like in leaps. That's what we've been having within months.
We've really grown to the 71,000 level. We didn't think we're going to hit it this year.
This year, exactly.
But we hit that.
Yeah, and we're sustaining the 70.
It's more like there is the support level now. So like we're 70, and like you can't go lower than that.
Exactly. So we can only build on that. And even if there is buying and all of that, it just hits maybe close to it or stays on 70 and all of that. So I mean, congratulations to FBN Holding. Congratulations to the investors.
Congratulations to investors. And we did see, interestingly, about the banking stocks. Access Bank also moving very rapidly. Yesterday it closed at about 21 naira. It is quite surprising to see that all these banks are moving in the right direction. Well, I will say the right direction, because you know, you see that the
right direction also, you'll see. I mean, you remember, so I think a couple of months ago, the central bank had to warn the banks that you are making a lot of profit here, but
this FX theory,
exactly, but keep it for the rainy days, because you may not always have it. Yesterday, I know that the value of naira hasn't been so friendly, or you know, at this time, but I mean, some people were reporting that CBN effort was sort of stability, you know, especially in the parallel market yesterday. I think it stopped at about 1,160 or thereabouts, you know, and it's been on that for 2-3 weeks now. Not a good number, not a good value for the naira. No, but if it's stable, and then we see the closing of the gap between the parallel market and the official market, it might just mean that perhaps CBN is doing something, and then the windfall of the banks might start reducing. You know,
but I think just speaking about the banking sector, you know, the President mentioned that he wants to build a $1 trillion economy, and then these banks are going to recapitalize soon. And we're seeing these banks, obviously, it's like I think it's like they're working towards this. And CFBN moving in a direction that is entering the woods. Maybe other banks, tier 2 banks, are going to join that, and people recapitalize to get that.
They can't just join it. They have to do some things.
Yes, of course, they have to recapitalize.
Yes. Yeah, apart from capitalizing, if they want to do like what FBN has. You have to win investors' confidence to the level where they put their money in you enough for you to hit that. And of course, the other part would be the recapitalization proper, mergers and things like that, depending on the limits that the CBN releases.
Of course. And then I'm even surprised for the oil and gas sector has been unchanged. Last week, we saw Seplat bringing the markets up over 5% yesterday. I mean, last week. But now we're back to unchanged. I don't know. Is it the oil? Is it the lawn in the oil and gas space?
If you remember, shortly after the subsidy was removed, they were cashing out.
Of course.
The oil and gas industry, they were cashing out. The stocks were doing it. I think people have just like, well, I think you're...
They know now.
Because for months now, they've been unchanged. We've seen almost every week we have 3 days of the stock prices on the counter being unchanged. Yes, it is unchanged. Like investors are not looking that way.
Maybe because they're a bit cautious about oil. But oil prices, I mean, oil production in Nigeria is going up. That should boost their confidence.
Yeah, but global oil prices is down, so that is also a factor.
Oh, well, we hope that the other markets really rally to be able to bring the economy, especially right now that we can't say that we'll divorce the equities market will divorce ourselves from the realities of the economy, but the NGX has really done well.
Yeah, it's done
really
well.
Applaud
it's one of our flying. We should blow our trumpets on that.
We should.
For this year at least.
I look forward to reporting a very green close today. You're wearing green, so that should rub off
I'll just give you the color.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you at 1:30. Okay, so now let's head to London, I guess, enough of Nigerian market. Let's see what's happening in the United Kingdom. Juliana, good morning. Yesterday, I know you started this conversation with Will on Business Incorporated about former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He's up for the second day of questioning, and it's a very big deal right there. Yesterday was not very good for him. I heard he was booed out of the venue.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Good morning, Innie. It is the second day that the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson is going to give his testimony to the COVID inquiry. This has been going on for several months. In fact, it was when he was Prime Minister that he agreed to this inquiry to try and ascertain exactly what went wrong, why Britain wasn't prepared, and why we had nearly 250,000 deaths. Now, he has arrived at Dorland House, which is where the inquiry is taking place. I think Boris Johnson arrived at about 7 a.m. in a cloud of darkness to try and avoid the paparazzi scrum, as well as, of course, the anger from bereaved families who, as you said yesterday, did heckle him at the start of his testimony. In fact, I believe 4 protesters were removed from court because there is, of course, a lot of anger surrounding the Prime Minister, well, the former Prime Minister. Of course, the buck did stop with him. And yesterday, we kind of had a chronology of what went wrong starting in February and March 2020, when the world was already basically locked down and Britain was so slow at doing it. So a lot of yesterday's testimony was about his leadership, the toxic culture in number 10, and whether or not he failed to lead. Now, he always has said that he got the big decisions right, such as the rolling out of the AstraZeneca COVID vaccination, which, of course, Britain was the first to do so. But then, of course, there were so many things that went wrong, and that is what is going to be on the spotlight today, which is Partygate, and the fact that the then Prime Minister allowed civil servants and other ministers to party literally while Britain was in lockdown. So pretty harrowing accounts, unfortunately, from him for the bereaved family members, with sentences such as "let the bodies pile high," so not great, and for many observers in the UK, it does appear as if what is going to transgress today is going to basically be the nail in the coffin of Boris Johnson's political career.
Yeah, we'll see that, and I know you'll be following up on that for us. And back here in Nigeria, there's this threat of cash shortage, unfortunate incidents we had late last year to early this year. And over there, we see there's been an increase in the use of cash. But I mean, the developed world, the Western world, like the UK, are known to, have very slim usage of payments in cash. How come we have a hike in it this time?
It's quite interesting, isn't it, actually, that cash is enjoying a comeback, and this is according to data from the British Retail Consortium, which has been released this morning, showing that last year, 1 in 5 transactions was a cash transaction. In fact, I think it was boosted by a third, if you look at it year on year, to how much cash was used in 2021. And I think what economists are saying is that people are using this to help budget. Of course, it's very easy if you kind of tap with Apple Pay on your phone, or you use your card or your credit card. You don't really know what you're spending unless you're a good accountant. But if you take out money from a cash point, you actually know exactly what you're spending in a day. And having a look at the figures, it appears as if that's exactly what people are doing. So on the one hand, yes, we are seeing that cash is making a comeback. But on the other hand, I think I reported this on Business Morning last week, Innie, that again, several big lenders in the UK are shutting down their branches. So for most people, it's really, really difficult to find a bank to actually take out the cash. Of course, there are ATMs everywhere, but not actually bricks and mortar high street banks anymore. They're on the decline. But, Innie, as we get close to Christmas, for many people, it is going to be much easier to have a budget, stick to it, but then, of course, not stick to it.
Yeah, stick to it. I was going to say, Juliana,
of course, when that runs out, there's nothing more you can do.
Yeah, I wanted to say, how easy will it be to stick to it when the children are pulling at you and crying, and you want to make them happy, and all of that. But anyways, thank you so much, Juliana. We'll talk to you.
Consumerism.
Yes. We'll talk to you at 1:30, Juliana. All right, now let's go to the final market for today, and that's the market that never sleeps, crypto market. I don't know what Ladi did to himself today, but he's not here. But we still have to go and find out what's going on at the crypto market. Look at the price right there, and it's still a green one, especially for Bitcoin. We see that it's up more than 1%, 1.07% at 43. You're getting close to 44,000. I know that a lot of investors have already made some profit here. Now, if you're greedy enough to wait and risk if there is a drop right there. Ethereum is also up 0.05% at 2,267.38. So it's more of a green board there. Just a little bit of reds at this corner right there. Let's see other parts of it. The index is green, not extreme greed yet, but you should have your target, even though the market is green at this time at 72. Let's look at the prices, that is. We've already seen for Bitcoin up 1.07%, Ethereum marginally up, BNB, Cardano, it's looking green, and all of that. But there's something that made the news yesterday, which is the CEO of JP Morgan, Mr. Jamie Dimon. He was at the house and he said some really harsh words. I don't know if I could say that. He said that if he was in government, he would have closed down crypto. I know crypto investors, some of them are not happy to hear this. A lot of criticism, I would say, that Mr. Dimon said right there at the outing. He added that you can move money almost instantaneously with digital assets, and it was somewhat anonymous in essence, implying that you may not have security for your assets or your money if you are doing crypto. So I don't know if this will move investor sentiment in one way or the other. The thoughts of Mr. Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, the chief of the world's biggest bank, also questioned whether Bitcoin would really have its supply capped at 21 million coins. You know that Bitcoin is supposed to have a cap right there. And of course, there's that halving which Ladi has been counting down to first quarter of next year. It's all supposed to also affect prices and, of course, investment. But let's have Olumide Adesina joining us now to share his thoughts and his findings on Mr. Dimon's thoughts and comments, very harsh comments right there. Hi, Olumide, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. I'm sure, of course, you have your money right here, so I'm sure you're very concerned. What are your thoughts and what reactions have you noticed since yesterday about the CEO JP Morgan's comments?
I think based on market reaction, Bitcoin is still up in the game. This asset class has risen by 15% in the past week, has had an upside of 150% for the year. But looking at the concerns of JP's James Dimon, this is an entity that has that runs the world's most valuable bank and has trillions of assets under management. One would definitely take those concerns into light. And knowing fully well that the Senate Committee on Banking were really concerned about the illicit flows of funds, particularly money laundering on dark channels like North Korea and other foreign state actors. But having said that, you also need to look at that James Dimon's position is different from JP Morgan Chase's position, because JP Morgan runs a GPM coin on Ethereum blockchain, and they have a very advanced trading platform on the bonds market, which really facilitates billions of dollar worth of bonds, and this is run on the blockchain, also, on the Ethereum chain. So I think while it's a tale of two cities, I think traders are more concerned about the outlook of the Bitcoin spot ETF in play. But a ban from the United States definitely would weigh the markets down, but it seems very unlikely, because I think definitely it looks like we've passed that phase already.
So you think that investors have grown more than, such comments, bringing them down, and confidence continues to grow. At least we see in the price of Bitcoin, it's hardly moved, if at all negative after this comment.
Yeah, I think what traders are looking right now is the U.S. job report coming out tomorrow. And for Bitcoin to maintain the position, it has to break the all-important resistance between 45,000 and 47,000. Breaking that, then 50,000 being the lifeline. But there are concerns that a strong dollar and the fact that a lot of bank CEOs that spoke yesterday highlighted concerns about recession might really put a cap on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has a lot to play on, but it's been an interesting year for the crypto market.
Yeah, very interesting. And some people are thinking that the next resistance point to be 45. Do you also saw that line?
Yeah, 45 is very valid point, but I think market tacticians are more focused on 47, because 45 pretty much just puts the ceiling on how dynamic the assets will be when that important number is broken. But 47 gives the bulls enough pushing and firepower to approach the 50,000 mark. So yeah, both support levels are very valid, but 47 for market tacticians really highlights the closer look to 50,000.
All right, Olumide Adesina, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. 47 is better than 45, so we hope Bitcoin can make it, especially with the job data expected tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Final episode for the week comes up tomorrow. Wonder what we'll talk about? Trust me, it will have value or add value to you and help you make better business decisions. So join us tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll be back for a fresh episode of Business Morning. But Will Ebong is here at 1:30 p.m. Update from the world of business. And it's all right here on Channels Television.